Atem Nitzav Mayom Kulchem Lefnei Havaya Lekechem. In the beginning of this week's parsha, it says, "You are all standing today before Hashem, your God." It says, "Rashechem, Shiftechem, your heads, your tribes, V'gomer, Tapchem, your children, Neshechem, your wives, V'gomer, La'avrecha Bavris V'gomer, to have you pass through in a treaty, in a promise, in a covenant with Hashem." The Isa B'Kisvei Arizal B'Shem HaZoyar, and the Arizal's writing, it's brought down the name of the Zoyar. Shepedet HaKasav Eser Madregis, that the Pasuk had detailed 10 different levels amongst Yidden. Shenachlokim L'Shtei Madregis, they are divided into 2 levels. Chamesh Pasuk Harishon, there are 5 levels of differences in Jewish people in the first Pasuk. Hachel Mirashechem Shiftechem, beginning from where it says, your heads, your tribes. She'ein Pirushay Rashechem Lishiftechem. It doesn't mean the heads of your tribes. Then it would be one thing. But rather, Elem Shtei Madregis, these are 2 different levels. And the commentary on the side, he brings down that the Zoyar, the Rabbi Yonasan Mazil, Targum Mazil says, Rashechem means the head of the Sanhedrin, Shiftechem are the heads of the Shvatim. So there's 5 different things in the first pasuk where it says, Rashechem, your heads, Shiftechem, the heads of the tribes, Ziknechem, your elders, Shetrechem, your officers, and Kol Ish Yisrael, and every Jewish person, or every Jewish man. That's the first 5 levels. Then v'chamish b'pasuk hasheni. Then there's 5 enumerated in the second pasuk. Tapchem, your children, Neshechem, your wives, Gercha, your convert, Chayte v'tzacha, your wood chopper, Sheva mecha, your water drawer. Tzarech Lavan, the Rebbe says we need to understand the kvi v'shekvar number b'tchilos hakasav atim nitzavim gaimer kulchem. Since at the beginning of the pasuk it says all of you are standing. V'achakach ma'asav gam kol ish Yisrael. Afterwards he says every Jewish person. Kulam biyachad, all together. Lama hisker gam pratim adregis rashechem shiftechem atshoyim mecha. So what need is there to go into all the specific levels, your heads, your tribes, all the way to your water carriers? Seemingly, it's redundant, it's extra, there's no need to go into that. Gam tzarech lahavim also, we need to understand, lama nokta kasav al-loshen nitzavim davke. Why does the pasuk use specifically the word nitzavim? So what's wrong with the word nitzav? So the Rebbe shows over here in this mimer that the word nitzav is not always used in a positive fashion. We find this pasuk, this expression used in the Torah for something that's untoward, like it says in the pasuk with Dasan Vaviram Yatzum Nitzavim. Dasan Vaviram went out standing. In other words, they were very standing strong in their opposition to Moshe Rabbeinu in the fight of Korach. So therefore, Nitzavim is not a positive thing. So why do we use it here to describe Klal Yisrael? Also, we need explanation where it says that all you are standing today before Hashem your God. The L'chura, seemingly, the fact and the idea that all Yidden are in the way of all of you. What does it mean, kulchem? Kulchem shows on unity. La'chadim ke'echad, there as one. Hu mitzad neshamas Yisrael atzmo. What is the reason? What's the cause that all of us Yidden, despite the fact being so many varied people, still in all we're considered as one? It's because of neshamas of the Yidden. Because the neshamas of the Yidden, that's why we are all one. Kimevur b'Tanya, like it's explained in Tanya in Perek Lamed Beis. Be'inyan avos Yisrael ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. That what is the reason that you could love another Yid just like yourself? Not you should love another Yid, but exactly like yourself, because he is yourself. Because all of us match up, all of us are like one, because we all have one Father. So the question is, so this idea of all Yidden's oneness is not a particular time. It's something that's a constant thing. This has to be always loidak hayoim, not just today, which is the day when Moshe Rabbeinu was making the covenant with them. And not just while they're standing in the presence of Hashem your God. has to be this unity. This unity is a constant thing. Also, we have to understand in the continuation of the pasuk that says to pass you through in the covenant. Rashi explains, what does it mean passing you through a covenant? Bris seemingly means a promise, a treaty, an agreement. What does it mean passing through? So he says, because literally when they used to make a treaty, they used to pass two people through a bris. Allah will soon explain. Kach hoyu korsei bris. Bris is oisin. This is the way the people that would cut a covenant, the way he calls it, they used to do it this way. We'll soon see why it's called cutting. They would make a partition here for one side, and a partition from another side, and the two parties would pass between these two partitions. Like it says, it says like the calf that they split into two. It says it's a pasuk near Miyoah Novi, and they passed the two parties to the agreement, passed through its parts. The lechudra nemru kan shnei inyonim loirak shoinim alahavchim zamezeh. Seemingly over here is said two not just different things but opposite things. When you make a partition over here and a partition over here, and you pass through in between, so then the partitions are two separate things. As opposed to the calf that they cut into two, that's really one item that was split into two. And by using that one item that's split into two and they're passing through it, it's indicating that really we are part of one unit. Just like this calf that was split into two is really part of one unit, the same thing, we are part of one unit. But if you're making partitions have nothing to do with each other, so how is that something that is beneficial or adding to the treaty, adding to the covenant, etc.? So the Rebbe goes on, the idea behind this is, like it's explained in the Ramarim of the Rabbeim, there are many explanations in the word nitzavim. There's an explanation that nitzavim means rising up and standing. If that's what it means, so let him say, Atem oimdim, Atem kamim. Why does he use specifically the word nitzavim? Especially like we asked before, nitzavim seems to be a negative thing. It says that Yosef saw in his dream that my bundle of wheat rose up and also it stood in a word of nitzav. What is the significance of nitzav? So the Rebbe is going to explain. When you use the word nitzav, it's not just trying to exclude that he's not sitting or he's not fallen. Then the word amida would be used, the word kima would be used, standing or rising up. But the word nitzav comes to tell you something more powerful. It's in such a way that it's a height above height over a regular standing and rising up. It's a very strong and powerful standing. And this will be seen more from the next part that the Rebbe explains. That the word nitzav means someone that's a head, someone that's like an official, an officer. Nitzav melech. There's a pasuk that says the king stands, meaning it shows on a certain fastness and strength. That shows on the special power and strength that's to be found specifically by a king. This means it's not just like a normal free person. That a normal free person is not like a servant that's subservient to his master. On the other hand, but he still doesn't have a rulership and control over others. Ela toikif shalayhu, the strength of the king is further than a free person. Is ba'oifin sheyesh lo shlita gam al acherim in such a way that it controls others, v'achetrichim l'syachse l'boifin shel kavod, to such a degree that you need to show him respect. Kipsak halacha shein roinos beis hamercha. It's like the halacha is that a person may not see the king when he's bathing. Al melech b'yafiyat a king may only be seen in his beauty. That's what the way a king may be seen. So that's what it means, nitzov. By the way, the Rebbe sometimes will explain something at length in one mimer and then make reference to that idea many times over in short. And the Rebbe will, in many, many places, Sichas Mamborim, say, Atem nitzavim hayoim k'moi nitzav melech. And he doesn't go on further, because he already explained in this mimer what does nitzav melech means, that he's standing with the full force in the highest way, like a king stands, and he's in control of everything, and so on. So, just file this away for the next time you have the Rebbe talking about nitzavim, and he just like throws out a line. Nitzav melech, this what we just now learned is what he's referring to. Second paragraph, line 25. V'zel atem nitzavim goyim. This is where it says you are standing fast. V'hainum sha'kosav mesaber shivcham shel Yisrael atem. The pasuk is relating the praise of the Yidden. You, the Jewish people, that they're in a state and situation that they are standing fast before Havaya, your God. And how come? Why is that? It's because the great quality of the neshamas of Yidden, that because of that they are able to be standing fast and strong, similar to what we said before about how powerful the standing of a king is. Like it's brought down in Tanya, the second soul amongst the Yidden is a part of Hashem above in actuality. Like the teaching of the Baal Shem Tov, that the essence, when you grab hold of part of it, you're grabbing hold of all of it. In other words, even though we're saying it's only a part of Hashem above, so it's a part of Hashem above. It's not Hashem. No, this part is Hashem Himself. To the explanation that when it says you are standing before Havaya Lekechem, what's the word before? The simple translation before means in the presence of Havaya Lekechem. But Chassidus often teaches when it says lifnei, that means prior to, higher than. Shehu, that's the level of, next page, l'mayla mebchinas Havaya Lekechem, higher than the level of Havaya, your God. Not just are the Yidden higher than the name Elokim, they're also higher than the Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei. Similar to what it's written, it says that those very high malachim called Srafim, that they burn up in their great passion and love and desire for Hashem, they are standing higher than Him. Higher than Him, it's referring earlier, it says over there, the Shem Adnai, Aleph Daled Nun Yud, so they are standing higher than the name of Hashem called Adnai. So similar to what we say about the Malachim called Srafim being beyond the Shem Adnai, the same thing, Atem Nitzavim Hayom Kulchem Lifnei Havaya Lekechem. You are higher prior to Havaya Lekechem. And the Rebbe says that we see that the Medrash associates that pasuk of Srafim Oimdim Maloi with our pasuk of At Nitzavim Hayom. The Medrash is referring to the standing part. That Medrash says, can move Mashamar Medrash, like it's understood from what it says that he said in the Medrash, the Malach, concerning Malachim Namar Srafim Oimdim Maloi, that the Srafim are standing above. When the Shamas Namar Atem Nitzavim Hayom, and in Neshamas it says, you are standing today. So the Medrash is only making comparison between standing and standing. Just like the Malachim are standing, so too the Neshamas are standing. The Rebbe is going to take that in another comparison. Just like the Medrash compares it concerning standing, the same thing where they are standing. Line 6, V'chivim sha'pirish desarafim ma'im devim maloi. Since what it says that the Srafim are standing higher than him, it's as if they are higher than the name of Hashem known as Aleph Daled Nun Yud. In Yalderach ze Yuvan Gama Pirish and Nitzavim Lifnei Havaya Goimer. Similar to this will also be understood. The explanation of it says that they are Nitzavim Lifnei Havaya, that the Neshamas of Yidden are prior and higher than the name Yud Kei Vav Kei. Now, the Rebbe adds another thing. Even though we compare it, but it's still not the same. By Neshamas, they have an extra aspect. We spoke about before that Nitzav is more powerful than Oimid. When we use the word Nitzav, that means standing fast and strong like a king. Oimid is just excluding sitting. But Nitzav means fast. By the Malachim, it doesn't say Nitzav. It only says Oimdim Emaloi. By Neshamas, it says Nitzav. So he says in line 9, we say them is even more so, Inyan the Nitzavim Shenamar Ben Neshamas. The idea of Nitzavim that says by Neshamas Hulamai Lama Inyan the Oimdim Shenamar Malachim, it's higher than the idea of standing that says by Malachim, Kim Muvim Me'amar Le'il Be'in in Kamal Lumasim, Gam Nitzav Elect understood from what said earlier that my bundle of wheat not just arose, but also stood fast. Which, by the way, is associated with the fact that Yosef HaTzadik would be ruling over all the rest. It says afterwards, and all these other bundles bow down to me. So it's not just a usage of words. It's an actual expression of how powerfully his bundle of wheat stood up, indicating his reign over his brothers by becoming the viceroy Mitzrayim, etc. Because of Atem Nitzavim Hayom Kulchem, the pasuk continues, you are standing today, all of you. The Koy al Rosh Hashanah, it's referring to Rosh Hashanah. The Yom, what day is it? This is talking about the day of Rosh Hashanah. Should be Yom Zen, the day of Rosh Hashanah. Kol Nitzoitzi Nishamis Nitzavim Misalmim Koydam Ad Lifnei Havaya. All sparks of souls are standing fast, and they are ascending to their source, even to the level of prior than the name Yud Kei Vav Kei. So he explains, how is that? The idea of Rosh Hashanah is similar to the head. It includes the life force and vitality of the entire body. And so it's included in Rosh Hashanah, the life force of the entire days of the year. Just like it's drawn down from its source and root in the general thought of primordial man. It's a very high level called Ak, higher than the Olam is higher than Atzilus. It says that the level of Ak includes in it the life force and vitality of all the energy and all the life force that will come down over the 6,000 years that the world will exist. And not just the 6,000 years, but it says after that, when Mashiach comes, there'll be 50,000 jubilees, which means, I think, 2.5 million levels of years and elevations and so on. And all of that is there in the first thought of Ak, Beskira Achas, in one glance. The way it is in that level of Ak is in the way that the Eibishter perceives it all in one glance, that he has it all at once. Everything that's going to come down afterwards.
Is that level Ak connected to our Neshama?
We're going to talk about that. That will show you Gemara, top of the next page, like the expression the Gemara ben Egel, the Rosh Hashanah, concerning Rosh Hashanah, Shekol bnei olam oivrim lefanav t'nei mar. All the inhabitants of the world pass through before him like either a sheep that goes through like these type of exits where they can only go out one by one. Like we say in the Sanatoikiv, Rosh Hashanah, like it's also explained in the Sefer HaTeres Rosh of the Middle Rebbe. Behind this means all the specific matters throughout the entire year. Every single day has its own job, has its own purpose, has its own mission. Beginning from the general difference and distinction between the weekdays, what their function is and their purpose, and Shabbos day, etc. Even though there's all these distinctions when they come out in the rest of the year, but on Rosh Hashanah, all of this is all as one. It's all in one point, because the head, that includes everything, like we always speak about in Chassidus, that the idea of the head is that everything that will come out afterwards in the rest of the body is all part of the life force and vitality that's in the head. So now he's going to bring this back to Neshamas Yisrael, Kashem Shu being an Azman, just like it's concerning time. Kachu gam ben Neshamas, so too it's concerning Neshamas, Shekul Kol Netzoyt Neshamas Nitzavim, Misalim V'Koidam, Boif and Shaliskal, Los Lachodim Ke'echad, all the sparks of Neshamas are standing fast, and not just they're standing fast, but like we said before, they are lifnei havai lekechem. They are going up in their source in a way of intermingling lachodim ke'echad. That's why it says atim nitzav mayoim kulchem lifnei havai lekechem. When they're going up to their level over there, just like all time of the rest of the entire year is all included in one point. The same thing on Rosh Hashanah. All the neshamas go up before on the day of Rosh Hashanah, and they go up to such a high level, higher than Yud Kei Vav Kei, and all together the neshamas are completely joined and united. Another idea and explanation of you are standing today, like it's brought down in Medrash Chuma, just like the day shines, af atem chulu, so to you, asid lahoir lachem oir oilam, you will have the everlasting light of the day, the shining for you. In other words, the sunlight is something that's constant. It's always going to be. The sun never goes into retirement. The daylight is higher even than candlelight or torchlight. It's explained in the Gemara Masechta Saita. It indicates the everlasting light that's always, not like a candle or not like a torch that will go out. That the candlelight or torchlight is only temporary and it could stop. Sunlight is always there, meaning the sun never stops existing. It might get dark, but it's always there. That's what it means that you are standing today. The today, what does it mean today? We say, you're like day. The Jewish people are standing fast like the day, just like daylight. The light of the sun is always present. So too Yidden are always there. Similar to what it says about Hashem, I am Havai, I'm unchanged. The same thing, the Jewish people are unchanged. Now, up till now, we were talking about the source of the Yidden, the way they go up above on Rosh Hashanah. Everything we spoke about up till now, Mitzad Shodesh, Neshamas Yisrael, Kafishem Lamayla, like the source of Neshamas Yisrael, the way they are above. In such a way that they're so high that they're all standing fast, higher than Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei, all the way in the level of Adam Kadmon. Then all of this has to come down into the world. Now all this has to manifest in the world. But after this, Nasim Chiluke Hadargis, then from that one unit that we are, that we're all joined together, just like the one unit of time, that on Rosh Hashanah it includes all time as one, but then throughout the year it breaks down into the different days of the year. The same thing, the one unit of Klal Yisrael that's there on Rosh Hashanah needs to afterwards break down and embed itself into all the different levels. Nasim Chiluki Adargis becomes the different levels, the Reshechem, Shiftechem, of your heads and your tribes, Ad Choyte Vitzechel, till your wood choppers, V'shoyvemecha, until your water drawers, Shazel Mitzad, The reason why these distinctions now come about, it's in general because of the descent of the neshama very low. Until the world of action. It's not just the spiritual world of action, meaning the physical world of action. When we talk about the four worlds, Atzilus, Bri, Yetzira, Asiya, sometimes when we're referring to Asiya, we're referring to the spiritual realm of Asiya, the energy and vitality behind our physical world. But then there's where we refer to literally our physical material world down here. So he says when the neshama descends not just into all the four worlds, and not just to the lowest of the four worlds in the spiritual realms, to the world of Asiya and the spiritual, but it descends also to the physical world of Asiya, this physical material world, that's the lowest in level, and there's nothing beneath it. For this low world, for our physical world, was the entire reason of the chain descent of all the worlds prior to it from one, and their descent from one level to another level. But Tanya, like the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, the goal of the creation is not for higher worlds, because they lost out by coming into being. They descended from Hashem's light. By Atzilus, for example, coming into being, it lost. Beforehand, Atzilus was part of the Ein Sof. Now you're making Atzilus, it's lower. So there's no purpose in Atzilus. Hainum, Shadarga Yoser Nilus Binyan Agilui, the most highest level of revelation. Higamki Yididamai Panvis Baruch, it's also descent from the light of his face. The goal is this world, not because of its quality, because it doesn't have any qualities. Rather, because it's low, and Hashem won't have a dira. That so it arose in His will to be a delight and something that's pleasing before Hashem. What's pleasing before Hashem? In this world, when the Sitra Achra is sublimated and subjugated. And darkness transformed to light. And when does that occur? That's through the service of Yidden in the fulfillment of Torah. The Torah also went through a chain order of descent. There's the Torah the way it's in the Oil Misal Yoinim, but it descended to be involved in this physical world. You descended to Mitzrayim. In other words, when Moshe Rabbeinu told the Malachim, did you descend to Mitzrayim? So therefore, when it says Mitzrayim, it doesn't apply to you. So in other words, we find that Torah deals with matters of this world. For their sake, for the sake of Yidden, for the sake of Torah, the world was created. So we were saying, so it seems to be a negative. We started off Atem Nitzav Mayim Kulchem. We started off one. We started off joined in the level of Ak. And then we came down and down to this physical world, and that's why you have Rashechem, Shiftechem, etc., 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 into all these different parts. So it's a descent. So the Rebbe, of course, says, no, it's not a descent. But this descent is for the sake of an asset. Only through Yiridah Solamato Magas and Neshama Dargas Nilos Yoser does the Neshama able to reach to a much higher level than the way it was prior to its descent down here. Like it's known, the metaphor that Baal Shem Tov gives, the king had a son, an only son, that was Molimalis, full of only qualities, only was most perfect human being. And the king sent him to a faraway place to reveal his powers and capabilities and his talents from potential to actuality. When he's in the royal palace, when he's in the capital city, he doesn't really have an opportunity to really show and express who he is. When he goes to a faraway land, and he brings the people of that land awareness of the king, and he educates them, and he elevates them to a higher place, and he makes them aware of things and knowledge and capabilities that he has as a prince, so then the prince is expressing and bringing out his potential to the actual. The Rebbe in the bracket says that in a similar vein it says concerning Hashem as well. One of the explanations that's brought down in Kabbalah for Hashem's creation of the world is also to reveal his powers. And his powers become revealed when the world's creation, even though the powers are there potentially. That's what he says in the brackets. We'll skip over the brackets to line 8. Like it's explained in the Hemshech of Amorim of the year 1906. All of this occurs. This revelation of the prince's powers, this revelation of a Yid's potential, is manifest and comes about when we do our avodah down here in all the detailed aspects that are expressed in the different levels that we just now said, Rosheichem, Shiftechem, and so on. In other words, it's not just like the simple sense is that these are different people. There are people called Rosheichem, there are people called Shiftechem, there are people called Choytevetzecha, and Shoyim. No. In every Yid, there's all these 10 different types of avodas. Just like every Yid has 10 koiches HaNefesh, he has 10 soul powers. The same thing, there are the 10 avodas that are hinted in these different descriptions. So he starts explaining. Hachel, line 11, the Hachel ma'inyan d'Rosheichem, beginning from the idea of the heads. Shemoidal inyan HaTorah. Just like the heads of the people are the heads of the Sanhedrin, like we mentioned before, it begins with the level of Torah. Shebezet toli gam kiyum mitzvahs. The fulfillment of mitzvahs is dependent upon the head, upon the study of Torah. Chazal say, Godel Talmud Shemevel de Maisa, the greatness of Torah studies that brings to action. So even mitzvahs need the Torah learning. So Torah is at the head. Torah is the first thing. Torah is the beginning. V'ad l'chol ish Yisrael. In the first pasuk, it includes with the words l'chol ish Yisrael. So he brings an interesting taich in the word l'chol ish Yisrael, based on what the Mizritcher Magid says somewhere else, where there's the expression kol ish. A lot of times Mamorim will do this and Medrashim will do this. We'll take a phrase here, liken it to a phrase there, and then use the same ideas over there. So the Mizritcher Magid, in the Oira Torah the Oira Torah of the Mizritcher Magid, also wrote called an Oira Torah. He explained what the Mizritcher Magid says on the pasuk, or maybe it's the Oira Torah that Tzemach Tzedek. I'm sorry. It says when it came Pashas Truma, it says you should take me'es kol ish. You shall collect the donations from kol ish. What's the description? Me'es kol ish. So he says, Shezau inyan eshkol. The Chazal describe that there's a person that's called ish eshkolos. A person that's eshkolos means shekuloi ish, or isha kolboy. Everything is in him. That's why it's called like a cluster of grapes, whatever. But the Mizritcher Magid explains it a little bit different. That kuloi ish means he's entirely a person, meaning he's entirely godly. He doesn't have to do with klippa at all. He's completely koil ish Yisrael. Koil, his entirety, is only an ish Yisrael, is only about kedusha. V'zel gam ha'pirush l'chol ish Yisrael. That's also what it means. In the last description of the first 5. You remember we said there's 5 descriptions in one pasuk, 5 descriptions in the last pasuk. The last description in the first pasuk is Koil ish Yisrael, Sha'idei in the Yisrael, through the matter that a Yid is the level of Yisrael. And what is the meaning of the word Yisrael? So we know that it says about Yaakov Avinu, why was he called Yisrael? Al Shem Kisadisa Melakim, because you were more powerful and ruled over Elokim V'Anoshim. Meaning, what was he ruling over? Levaras and Nefesh Bahamis, to refine the animal soul. Shemitzad Atzma Hi Madregs Behema, the Nefesh Bahamis on its own is no level of Behema. Aidei Skafia, through sublimating Nefesh Bahamis, and further, Zainasa Kuloi Ish, that he becomes entirely a person. Instead of being part person and part animal, he becomes entirely a human being. That is the idea of Koil Ish Yisrael. Because of the Yisrael that we have within us, we become our Koil, our everything is now an Ish, our everything is now a godly soul. So that is the first half. The first pasuk are all descriptions within us. The second pasuk is how we're dealing with those outside of us. It's our avoida with the outside. In addition to this, there also be the work that we're doing with another. The other, the one that's outside of us, is considered the receiver. That's the idea of children are receiving from the parents, and the wives are receiving from the husband. A wife is the level of a receiver. Like it says, who's considered a kosher woman that fulfills the will of her husband. That these are all the lower levels of the water drawers and the wood choppers. These are all the lowest, most levels that we are reaching out to and influencing and elevating, like it's understood from the teaching of the Alter Rebbe. Let's go further. And through this becomes the elevation and ascent that for that purpose was the descent of the neshama down here below. We reach a level where we become absorbed and drawn into the body of the king, meaning becoming one with Hashem. That's the content of the idea to pass you through in the covenant. This itself, there's two levels. Madrega, the first level is we make the partition on this side, we make the partition on this side, and we pass through it. What is the indication of that? What do you have when you have two partitions? That means that those in between the partitions are secluded and alone. They're separated from anyone else. So that's the first level of the unity of the Yidden with Hashem, that no one else disturbs them, nothing comes between them, it's only the Yidden and Hashem. Yet, they're still considered like two separate entities. The fact that they're in between these two partitions doesn't make them one, just makes them alone. From this, they come to the second level, to become absorbed in the body of the king. That the Yid and Hashem become one entity. Like the teaching of the Mizrich Magid, it says in the pasuk, make for yourself two trumpets. So the Mizrich Magid says the word chatzoitzres can be split up into two words. Chatza'ei tzuros, two halves of forms, two halves of one form. Yisrael v'Hakadosh Baruch Hu kiviyachol k'moi shnei chatza'ei tzuros shemashlim zeh. That the Yidden and Hashem are kiviyachol like two halves of one form, that they complete each other. In other words, not just we are completed by Hashem, but that's why he adds the words kaviyachol, metaphorically speaking, we are Hashem's other half. We kaviyachol complete Hashem. That's how united and how one we are with the Eibishter. Chazal explain on the pasuk in Shir Hashirim where it describes the Yidden, that Hashem says about the Yidden, that the Yidden are my sister, my beloved, my dove, and my tamosi. What does tamosi means? Tamosi is from the word complete. Tamosi means to'oimosi, the one that is my twin or the one that completes me. Sheknas Yisrael Mashlem is kaviyach lois yizbarech. That metaphorically speaking, the Yidden complete Hashem. That's where it says that you are standing today, all of you, before Havaya your God. Like the continuation of the pasuk, that he should raise you today for as a nation. Through this comes down to be written and inscribed for and sealed for a good and sweet year. In children and life and in sustenance, comfortably for every Jew, loyal of Beisai, for him and his household, through the Eden to the entire world, because the entire world was also placed in the heart of the Eden. So what occurs to the Eden manifests outward that the Goyim also have a good year. Until the main point, Mashiach will build a Beis Hamikdash in his place. He will collect and gather the scattered Yidden, like it says, that Hashem will return, and he will return your captives, and he will collect you from all the nations. In such a way that he holds on, mamish with Kaviyach Hashem's hands, every single person. He takes him from his place. Similar to what it says, that you will be collected one by one, the Bnei Yisrael.